Enjoy your beverage of choice, a cup of tea, a glass of wine, or a cup of coffee, and join John Michael Chambers for candid conversations. It's Fireside Chats with JMC. No guests, no interruptions, just John. The world according to John, as JMC reflects on issues of the day, bringing clarity to events as they unfold, making sense of the times in which we live, keeping us informed, empowered, hopeful, inspired, and connected, as well as providing valuable resources and important announcements. Turn down the noise and daily distractions of your life and join John each month here on Fireside Chats with JMC. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to your presence. Where we go one, we go all.
August 1st, 2026. Hello, I'm John Michael Chambers, and welcome back to Bosi Briefs. I want to thank you for joining us. This program publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where retired Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi weighs in on current events. Please share these episodes far and wide and subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. A couple of quick announcements before we get into today's episode. Scott McKay, Patriot Street Fighter, a good friend of ours here, will be joining us in our private Zoom room Thursday, August 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Scott and I will be on screen for 1 solid hour live. Scott will be answering your questions. How do you participate? You visit jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Premium Portal, and we look forward to seeing you there. Do mark your calendars, Thursday, August 27th. All right, also Wano Savin back at it in Las Vegas at the Ahern Hotel. Once again, visit stormsummit.us. This is taking on different subjects that we're taking on the Fraud Fighter Summit. So visit stormsummit.us and get on out to Las Vegas. And for those that can't make it out there in America or anywhere in the world, we're set to stream it live the way we did the last summit here at jmcbroadcasting.com. 2 more announcements and we'll get into the meat and potatoes, if you will. Next image. Off-World with JMC. We're doing our 3rd episode. We have Dr. Sala confirmed. We have retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox confirmed. And we're pretty close to confirming Alex Collier returning. And that'll be our panel in Off-World publishing in the month of August that is now before us. All right, let's talk Fauci. The 10 points of the Nuremberg Code. Number 1. Voluntary consent of the human subject in the experimentation is absolutely essential. Again, folks, what we're going to do, we're going to run through the list right now of the 10 points of the Nuremberg Code. Think. Let's go to number 2. The results of the study should yield meaningful results that benefit society, unprocurable by other methods or means of study, and are not random or unnecessary in scope and nature. Number 3, any experimentation should be designed and based on the results of animal experimentation, taking into consideration knowledge of the natural history of the issue under study, that the results will justify the completion of the experimentation. Number 4, the methods used in the study should be conducted so as to avoid any unnecessary physical or mental suffering and injury to the subject or subjects taking part in the study. Number 5, no experimentation should be conducted where there is a prior reason to believe that disabling injury or death will occur, with the exception being if the experimental scientists conducting the study also serve as subjects in the study. Number 6, the degree of risk that subjects of the study undertake should never exceed the risk determined by the humanitarian importance of the issue under study. Number 7, all proper preparations should be made and proper facilities provided to protect the subject or subjects of the study against any possibility of injury, disability, or death. Let's continue. Number 8, all experiments should be conducted by persons qualified to do so. Through all stages of the experiment, all possible efforts should be taken to ensure the highest degree of skill and care are in fact maintained. Number 9, at any point during the experiment, every human subject should be permitted to bring the experimentation to an end should the subject deem that they have reached the point where continuation of the experiment appears to the subject to no longer be possible. And number 10, as the experiment progresses, the scientist in charge must be in a state of mind that, should they deem that the continuation of the experiment could result in injury, disability, or death to the subject, the experiment will be terminated. All right, we're going to jump into Fauci and all over Fauci in just a moment. For those just coming aboard, who is Riccardo Bosi? Riccardo Bosi is an international treasure. He's a former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel who served 24 years in the Australian Army. He is the national leader of Australia One Party. Please welcome to Bosi Briefs, Riccardo Bosi. No sound, sir.
John, good morning. Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for your kind invitation.
Thank you for being here. We're going to sort of discuss the codes relating to Fauci, what Nuremberg 2.0 might look like, and other things. Let me, before we start running some clips, what's your peripheral comments based on the 10 points of the Nuremberg Code that I just read? Any feedback there, sir?
Absolutely. The first one is this. When you set a set of rules, people assume that it's predicated on sound, an understanding of what's got to happen and how and by whom. And then you give them rules and away they go, and they go, fantastic, I'll now stick to the rules. There's one problem with the Nuremberg Code and the way it's predicated on a materialistic view of health and well-being and medicine and wellness and all this stuff. The first rule should be every other method, non-invasive method, should be examined to exhaustion before anything else is done. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that there are other modalities now available to us. They've been available to us for millennia, but they've been shut down. But there are other modalities available to us now, a better understanding of nutrition, a better understanding of exercise, a better understanding of sunlight, a better understanding of alkalinity in the human body. It just goes on and on and on. And all of these things aren't included because this has been predicated on a system of medicine, allopathic medicine, synthetic medicine, set up by powerful interests who want to use us. Now, it's insane to jump straight into, hey, let's do this. Let me give you an example. When one of my daughters was very young, it seemed that she might have a problem with her teeth. As it turned out, there was no actual problem. But we took it to the orthodontist who was going to do the surgery. He said, yeah, no problem. We'll break her jaw, and then we're going to reset things, and then it'll grow back. And my wife, being a very robust individual, told him to take a long walk off a short pier in very Australian language. You're going to break my 4-year-old daughter's jaw on the speculation that you might be able to. Now, this is a man with a hammer and everything's a fucking nail. Excuse the language. But this is what's happening. What they're saying to us now is, here's the rules of Nuremberg. Well, they're ancient. They're barbaric. We have other ways of fixing problems now. Just as war has evolved in what you've heard me talk about fifth dimensional warfare. I'm not talking about the war for the brain or the mind. I'm talking about there are other ways of communicating, telepathy. There are ways of moving things, telekinesis. There are other ways of seeing things, remote viewing. All of these things are available to us. Same approach to health. So the idea that you can do all these things, well, here's the first thing. First of all, the first rule is exhaust every other possible method of solving the problem before you break anything or you inject anything or you think you have the wit to understand God's creation and make it better. That's point number one. Point number two, anybody that wants to do this should be the second law of the Nuremberg law, is you do it to yourself first. You first. So Dr. Fauci, or pick any doctor that tells you, look, if we just inject this into you, it'll happen. Great. You first. Let's see how we go. Then every fucking doctor out there, excuse me for getting energized about this, but it's about bloody time. Every doctor that wants to give you something or inject you with something, you do it first. I want to see I want to see you do it to yourself and your family, and then maybe I might listen to you. And so, what's the point I'm laboring is that the rules must be predicated on a better understanding of how life works, how we work, and our place in the universe. And so all those rules sound great, but they're all subject to corruption. Let's examine wellness instead of illness. Let's assume that God knows what he's doing when he developed us. And let's say that just a little bit of humility that says, you know what? Our collective genius could not even begin to understand the nature of life on Earth, let alone a human cell. We're only discovering now, for example, that DNA isn't set. It's more like an antenna that responds to energy frequencies that allows the body to heal itself rapidly. These are all the things that need to be investigated. So we've got to step up, elevate our thinking, understand that we know virtually nothing about this, and come at it with a big dose of humility, take the doctors off their pedestals and send them back to school to understand wellness and not just illness.
Sorry, thank you. I've had a studio issue here. I've been listening to everything you just said. I've got another phone disturbing me, and I had to go shut it off. Pardon me. Thank you, Riccardo. I want to follow up with it. Yeah, the real world here. You know, I'm not Paulus Hannity, but at least here you're getting some much better information, with all due respect to Sean. I would like to say this. Before, to our audience, we're about to run a series of clips from the events that unfolded before the world with Fauci at the hearings, and we'll break that down. But before we do, how would you best describe Nuremberg 2.0 once this officially gets launched in 2026? What would people like Anthony Fauci or anyone else that will be subject to the Nuremberg 2.0 that's going to be taking place down, I would assume, at Gitmo and perhaps other locations, what do you think it'll look like as compared, let's say, to what took place in Germany? And maybe I don't know where I'm going with that question, but let's see what you unpack.
Yeah, it's going to be fundamentally differently. This is not the victors judging the losers, which is what Nuremberg 1 was. Now, don't get me wrong, Nuremberg 1 was necessary. You got to take a first step. But there's an excellent film about Nuremberg, black and white. You should watch it. There's an impassioned plea by the German. This didn't actually occur, but it's a point that was made. He made an impassioned plea about what about all the Americans that profited from the war. And here's some facts. Henry Ford, as we've said before, but for the new people, Henry Ford provided motors to the Wehrmacht. So there's the Ford Motor Company, moving the GIs and most of the Allies, but he's also moving the Wehrmacht, the German army, providing motor vehicles and motor vehicle engines to them. And people don't know this, but even at the height of the war, most of the German logistics was horse-drawn carts. So this was devastatingly important to Germany's success. So thanks, Henry Ford. Henry Ford received the highest German award from Adolf Hitler personally. Adolf Hitler had a portrait of Henry Ford in his office. And then you've got Standard Oil. Standard Oil produced a fluid which was an anti-knocking agent that was used by aircraft at high altitude, high-performance aircraft at high altitude. And this anti-knocking agent allowed the Allied fighters to perform much better. Standard Oil also provided that to who else? The Luftwaffe. And so there's the Luftwaffe with their Me-109s, the Stukas, the you name it. And they all would have been suffering except for the Standard Oil, United States, providing stuff to them to fight better. They even had Goering liked Coca-Cola, but he couldn't be seen to be drinking Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola invented Fanta, or Fanta, as other countries call it, the orange soft drink, for Germany. And on top of that, they made a transparent Coca-Cola for Hermann Goering, so he wouldn't be seen to be drinking Coca-Cola. So who are the criminals here? Were there German generals and others that did wrong? Absolutely. But who are the real criminals here? The same bastards that are running both sides of the playbook now. And so Nuremberg 2.1, to your question, how's it going to be different? Well, guess what? Industry, corporations, and other entities that have profited from both sides of this will be held to account. No more will there be, let's hang the guilty bastard. How about we line up everybody that is complicit in this, which is quite significant. So that's the first difference. Everybody, even brave generals wearing the uniforms of good people who did bad things, and they did lots of bad things, they will also be held to account. Nobody gets away this time. All the way down the chain of command, everybody's going to go down. That's the first difference. The second difference is this. It's already started. We know this, but this will be rolled out slowly. It'll be much quicker. Civilian law is wonderful in a civilian setting. And let's face facts, civilian law is designed to protect the guilty. They say it's designed to protect the innocent, but we know that's a law. This is military law. This is a second difference. It will be short, sharp, very fair, but very quick. So we won't be there for years trying to figure out whether somebody broke a fine point of law and therefore the evidence can't be admitted. Military law is very effective, very efficient, very fair, just so you know. But they're the two big differences. Everybody will be held to account, and justice will not be delayed. Justice will be delivered, and the people will be very satisfied.
Wow, thank you. Incredible information. I'm glad I asked that question. Let's do this, folks. Let's listen to the man of science taking the fifth 111 times. Let's run the first clip.
He's going to testify in front of Rand Paul's committee this week. He has immunity against all of the things that he did prior to President Biden signing, or the electronic pen signing his pardon, but he could perjure himself now. So there are many things that he said that we know are lies, and Rand Paul presumably is going to ask him about those things. And if he lies again, then he could be subject to perjury prosecution.
Now, to our audience, we just published Global Defense War, our monthly military panel in its second year, of which Riccardo sits on that panel as well. And we addressed that with the panel. But for this broadcast, let's get you on the record, sir. What is the ultimate destiny? Let's go there. And you can pedal back if you choose. What's the ultimate destiny for Anthony Fauci in the middle of the charades that we're watching?
Oh, he'll be hung by the neck till dead, or whichever way they decide to dispatch him. We know things have already occurred, but let's accept it as it's being presented. This is setting the stage. Mm-hmm. Him personally, he'll be executed for crimes against humanity, some of the grossest, and so he should. And that's the destiny there. The larger picture is this, though. What this whole process is now initiating with Fauci, because Fauci is the poster boy for COVID. And so you need a villain. Every good movie needs the villain, the antagonist. And the antagonist has to be any number of things. It can be a psychopath that is irredeemable. It might be an individual with a tragic past and has only revealed himself as this evil individual as a result of whatever happened to him in the past. He might even be just absent any consideration other than how can I win. Neither a psychopath nor a bad individual, but somebody just needs to win compulsorily, must win everything all the time, always, and they'll do anything they can to do it. That's not psychopathic. That's just very different. That's where many corporate leaders out there that have no balance. What's going to happen is this. So this is the antagonist to the film, the first one. There are many after this, but this is the one that the people need to get a hold of, and so that's his role. He is to be the focal point of everyone's legitimate hatred, deep-seated hatred of what has occurred, the one responsible for death, the one responsible for wealth, the one responsible for destroying millions of lives and closing down the planet and causing more misery than any other individual in human history. Now, we know that's not true, but that's the role that Fauci is playing right now, and he will pay personally, already has, but he will play personally, and everyone will say, great. But that's not enough. As we go through the rest of the clips you're going to show, I'm sure that over time we're going to start seeing something else happen. So once the people have got what they need emotionally, psychologically, in terms of Fauci, the target is going to start to expand. But I won't go there yet. But that's Fauci's role. He is to be the face, the physical entity that people can grab a hold of and say, "You're the one that did it."
Yeah, that's very important. The target will expand. There's certainly other players. We remember Dr. Birx. We remember the gentleman from the NIH, and probably hundreds of people behind the scenes. Let's listen to Fauci's opening statement and have Riccardo weigh in on that.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, you are recognized for 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Member Peters, members of the committee, I served at the NIH for over 54 years, 38 of those as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Over that period, I proved that I believe in and respect the value of legitimate congressional oversight. In fact, I testified before and/or briefed Senate and House Senate and House committees well over 200 times over those 38 years. During and after the COVID pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed sworn interviews, answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
What do you make of that opening from Anthony Fauci?
Okay. Oh, it's excellent. And you really keep your wits about you here. Now, remember, we're watching a show. We're watching a movie. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is accidental. Now, what did he say? He said 54 years in the NIH and 38 running it. Now, normally that's a moment of pride for an individual. I have worked diligently for decades and decades and decades. What's he actually said? I've been guilty of this shit for a long time. I didn't come in late. I am a foundational member of the Bastards Incorporated in delivering this stuff. So that's one. He's nailed himself down with that. Secondly, and quite rightly, he says something quite clever. Senator Paul's obsession with me. Oh my God, slanderous comments about me. He wants me behind bars. Now, we understand that this is theater. Even in real life, it's theater. You've got the judicial process and a judicial temperament with which you must view all of this, because emotion doesn't count. These committees are, what is it, acting for the ugly. It's movie stardom for the ugly, the politicians. They're there to generate emotional responses. They're rarely there to determine the facts of the matter. So that's part of the law, unfortunately. The attorney has to sit there and sway the jury. Well, what they're trying to do is sway the people. But they're throwing in this apparent judicial temperament And Fauci's right. How can he expect anything fair from Rand Paul when he's been making all sorts of slanderous comments about him and he wants him behind bars, et cetera, et cetera? And that's really fantastically true. So they're now giving a left and a right. So they're giving with one hand and taking with the other. And people are saying, well, okay, well, that sounds fair enough to me. But then he says the dumbest thing in the world. And my wife, who studied law, wanted to punch both Fauci and the lawyer because what Fauci actually admitted to, he released my unredacted diary. Now, in the real world, the lawyer would have said, don't even mention the diary, because at no point has anybody asked you, is it your diary? How do you know it's my diary? Prove it's my diary. Prove it wasn't hacked and set up by somebody else. You have to prove that. And that would have taken a month of Sundays and the rest just on that one issue. But what the script required him to say was to obviate the need for that investigation, and by claiming ownership of the diary, like, how dare you? But it was a grand strategic error legally, because now he's accepted the diary as his. Didn't need to, shouldn't have. He's just sunk himself, and now the diary can be released. The committee doesn't have to prove that it's his. He's done that. He's accepted it. Confirmed or completely by him, and now everything in the diary is up for grabs as evidence. And so that's in terms of the verbiage that came out during that's what you saw. Now step back to the picture and you look at it again. If you look behind Fauci, you got two of his cadre of lawyers behind him, no problem. Who do they look like? There's one big black guy that looks like a very popular and well-loved basketball player. Not an accident. The fact that he's black, the fact that he's popular, and the fact that everybody thought he looks like that guy, and because there's a target audience that needs to be involved in this, and they wouldn't be. They go, who cares? White guys beating up white guys. No, there's a black guy that looks like a famous basketballer that I like, and that's all they're seeing. The other lawyer, he looks like some slimy, low-grade mafia lawyer that chases ambulances in his spare time. Like lots of lines on his forehead, very worried, looking down. Look at it really closely. And so what you're seeing now is the opening shot of this particular episode of the film, and the characters are being revealed. You've got the White Knight, Senator Rand Paul, and then you've got, that's in this particular episode, he's the protagonist, and then you've got the antagonist, that's Fauci, and you've got these people behind him. So that's what you saw in that opening clip.
Well, thank you. So we're back, folks. Siskel and Ebert once again analyzing the movie of the century. Let's take a look at the next clip. We'll call this the F-bomb clip as Fauci continues to plead the fifth.
Who the do you think you were for doing that? There was a mom in Ohio during the depth of the coronavirus pandemic, decided to go to her high school football game for her son. They sat alone, far from everybody else, just a mom, a dad, a few kids. They didn't feel they needed to wear masks because it was stupid, because they were outside. They all live together. They're not near anybody. Dr. Fauci, do you know what happened to that mom and that family? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
They were dragged out of that stadium and arrested. Those policies were put in place because you had moronic politicians that listened to the words of a megalomaniac who was more interested in having met a Kardashian than the suffering of the American people, and that is you. Your advice to communities like that, to idiotic politicians who enforce those rules, arrested that mom for watching a football game with her own family outside. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people. I will make it my mission to make certain that every single one of those Democrats who did that will see that clip over and over and over again. Because there is no defense of what you did.
Wow. What do you make of that approach?
Okay, this is generally reserved for the closing address of an attorney in a courtroom where he addresses the jury. This is giving the people of the United States and the world, but specifically in this case, the United States, meeting the emotional needs of the people. They are hearing what they want to hear. This is the sort of thing that mum and dad would be saying at home. We went to the football. We weren't next to anybody. What are they doing? Who the hell do you think you are? And so this statement is to meet the emotional needs of the people who are watching, to get them on side. So yes, this is my guy. This Bernie Moreno guy. He's my guy. He's saying what I want to say the way I want to say it. And so this is now generating support for the prosecution. Let's say emotional support. By, as I say, they're hearing what they want to hear, and they're hearing it the way they want to hear it. Now, he tells the story, and that's a technique to personalize a concept. There's a mum and dad going to the football in Ohio. A flyover country, first of all. They didn't pick New York because that's something else. So they picked a flyover country state. They picked an everyday event, and everyone can relate to that. So the audience is out there watching. They're going, "Oh, I can relate to going to the football. I know what that's like. I've been there with the family and the kids. We've watched the game." And then he throws in moronic and idiotic politicians and a megalomaniac. And again, now he gets all emotional, and he's now talking about what the people are saying about these people on the Hill. And again, this is now bringing the audience of the show into the script writers' minds. We've got the protagonist, we've got the antagonist, and now the fight starts. I want to justify my position. I hate Fauci. Give me reasons to hate Fauci. Now, Fauci has to have a chance to defend himself. Otherwise, there's no satisfaction. So that'll come. I'm guessing you're going to now watch the ebb and the flow of the story as it rolls out. So that's it so far. I'm enjoying it.
Sure.
It's fantastic.
Thank you very. Yep. Get some popcorn, folks, because we got Josh Hawley coming up now. Let's run this next clip.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Boggles the mind. Josh did a great job there. How do you want to break that down?
This is the moment where he tries to defend himself, and this is building the tension across the remainder of the interview. Josh Hawley says you haven't got any rights, and he explains legally, and the people need to hear that because they need to know that this is based in law. It's just not emotion. So Hawley does that, and he does a good job. And that's why the next 110 times or whatever it is that he says it, they're going, bullshit. You know you have no rights. So it just aggravates the audience even more because there's this pathetic individual throwing up a non-defense. And then he brings in a very clever line. You're treating this committee with contempt and the people with contempt because that's what they feel on a very visceral level. You've made us, you treated us with absolute contempt. and we are not going to take this anymore. His guilt is apparent. And then just to put the cherry on the parfait, he also mentions the fact that Fauci was enriching himself at the same time. So as if the actual crime itself wasn't bad enough, he's picking up a few extra shekels because he's done this job. And so they're just piling on now the reasons, legitimate reasons, for the people to really round on Fauci and leave him completely defenseless.
Thank you. Hawley takes a different turn here. Be curious to see what your comments are about it. Let's run the clip.
Chairman, well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyer is sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally, cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the.
You know, a couple of questions I'd like to ask you, Colonel Bosi. One, first off, of course, you know, what color is the carpet and what day of the week it is? And Fauci's answers make Fauci look like a complete fool. And second thing I see here, if you can comment on the legal aspect, because for now we hear Hawley talking about no rights due to the pardon factor. What's your analysis of that segment?
Yeah, the first part is they're showing to be not only a fool but a coward, and that strikes any honest individual wants to see somebody own up, just own up. And there's this constant questioning. You're a coward, and cowardice in this day and age, it's really. Look, it's never been popular, but now even more so. It's really generating a deeply visceral hatred for this individual. You coward. Not only are you everything else, but you're a chicken shit. That's point number one. On the legality of it, again, this gives comfort to the people, knowing that he is on shaky ground legally. He has no grounds to do this. The law is clear. Once you've been pardoned, you lose your rights to the Fifth. If you claim the Fifth, you can be charged with everything else. Your immunity is now gone. So again, not only is this guy a coward, but he's got no leg to stand on, and we're going to get him. We're going to get this guy, and that's what the people are now is running through their heads. They're getting a bit excited about this. They can see a potential. The frustration of the Fifth. Which is everybody's right, and it's not an admission of guilt. You know, the prosecution is required to prove their case. The accused is not required to assist them in any way, shape, or form, and that's the way it should be, because we know that people with power will force it. That's why torture is a really questionable way of getting information out of it.
Sure,
it's just you got to be careful. But anyway, the legal basis there. The guy's a coward, and the people are going to get him, and they can see it now.
Thank you. And the other thing that comes to mind, there's the legal aspect that was raised by Hawley on the pardon aspect, but you know we'll complicate matters even further. he was pardoned by what? An auto pen presidency? Was the pardon even in and of itself valid? I think we're starting to witness multiple legal aspects that Fauci's about to get hung. Let's listen to, and no pun intended on that word, let's listen to Rand Paul step up to the microphone.
But the attorneys are not recognized. In fact, the attorney was told not to sit at the table, and he's not obeying that recommendation. There's a row behind you, sir. That's where you were told to sit, and you're not. And now you're disrupting the proceedings. And so, look, this is the way Anthony Fauci wants to be remembered, for a lawyer not listening to the rules. That's the way you want to be remembered, and that's what you're going to do. You are not recognized, sir. Security, please remove him from the room. Let the record state that Dr. Fauci will still have the advice of the other half a dozen attorneys that he brought along today.
Boy, Fauci and legal team getting pulverized. Sorry, take it away.
Everybody's got to enjoy this one. There's nothing better than watching a crooked lawyer who uses the law to protect the guilty rather than defend the innocent. It just strikes at the heart of every decent man and woman on the planet. It's a point of such frustration because either directly or indirectly, we are all familiar with that. We really have. We've been on the wrong side one way or the other, and it is a very satisfying moment for everybody watching, seeing the lawyer removed and seeing the guilty have to stand up for himself. And that's a very specific moment, and there's a very specific reason for that scene, and it's excellent.
Thank you. Let's take it. This next clip, I'm going to set this up a bit. Senator Johnson pulls out bombshell date in front of Dr. Fauci, exposing the fact that COVID vaccine and remdesivir deaths were numerous, yet ignores while Fauci fear-mongered against ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, which, by the way, my good friend Dr. Sherry Tempany got me ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine in spite of all the hoops that had to be jumped through to make that happen. And in part, that's why I'm still here today. Let's run and I didn't take the vax, folks. It's a long story. Let's run the next clip.
Our average, again, VAERS doesn't prove causation, but there's correlation. It's there for a safety signal. So ivermectin, over 30 years of FDA reports, 17 deaths per year. Hydroxychloroquine, over 38 years of reporting, 142 deaths per year. Remdesivir, over 5.5 years, 546 deaths per year. The COVID injection, almost 7,000 deaths per year. Which is safest? What did the FDA freak us out about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, when they turned a complete blind's eye toward the injection's injury? So I want to enter the quote from the surgeon. By the way, here's the answer. Cheryl Atkinson in an interview said that when it comes to money, we check financial ties among experts on the government panel devising coronavirus treatment guidelines, which had the effect of dialing back hydroxychloroquine use and giving an edge to remdesivir. We found the 11 members reporting links to a drug company, 9 of them named relationships to remdesivir's maker, Gilead. 7 more, including 2 of the committee leaders, have ties to Gilead beyond the 11 months they had to disclose. 2 were on Gilead's advisory board. Others were paid consultants or received research support and honoraria. By the way, within the study, I think one of the study participants was an employee of Gilead. A bunch also had conflicts with Gilead. So, gee, I wonder why. There are conflicts of interest. Gilead made billions of dollars off of remdesivir and people died. In terms of ignoring safety signals, you can probably put that down now. This has come to light. This is Dr. Drew Weissman, who got the Nobel Prize for the mRNA platform. He wrote to Dr. Fauci on February 8th of 2020. Tony, I wanted to alert you to...
Interesting. I took some notes here. What I see happening is a reputation that Fauci's being destroyed with now, as we see this dialogue, a multi-pronged approach, sort of death by 1,000 lashes. What do you make of that segment as he now starts to talk about those elements of the issues at hand?
Yeah, there's a couple of key things here. the numbers of deaths and the conflict of interest. They're the two key concepts that have been introduced at a high level, but we know it's now going to trickle down to the doctors and nurses and pharmacists that actually participated and were rewarded financially and other ways by prescribing these drugs. Remdesivir, for example, that actually killed people. They knew that it would kill people, and yet they kept doing it. So death numbers and the conflict of interest in terms of financial motivation, not just at the highest level, but every doctor, nurse, every medical professional that was party to this should be very worried, because right now everybody, and I hope there are many of those people listening, they're going to be caught up in this net as well. Nobody gets away this time. And that was the importance of that one, particularly the remdesivir, which was actively killing patients, allegedly with a respiratory issue, which COVID never was. And the remdesivir just shuts the system down. And there's a number of commentators out there whose triggering moments was the death of a loved one because they were injected with remdesivir. You know, he killed my father. He killed my father-in-law. He killed my wife. He killed whatever. The remdesivir is the big one there. They knew about the ivermectin was being shut down, but what's the remdesivir? It's like that was like a bit of a time bomb, a bit of a mine in the minefield. That's going to blow up bigger than people imagine.
You bet, and I'm sure most people listening to this broadcast, no matter where they are in the world, probably knows of someone who died as a result of remdesivir and the ventilator. Robert David Steele comes to mind. I spoke with Robert 2 weeks before he left us, and everyone's got a story. This is very real stuff, and Nuremberg 2.0, whether it's happened or not, will be shown to us, coming to a theater near you. Let's listen to Senator Ron Johnson continue about subpoenas concerning Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, my only question is, based on your lack of testimony here today, based quite honestly on our investigation into the cover-up of safety signals and injection injuries, we have issued letters to a number of former FDA officials to come in for transcribed interviews. You will be getting a letter today asking for a volunteer transcribed interview. So I'd be asking, will you comply or will I have to subpoena you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Expecting a subpoena. Thank you.
Senator Scott.
Expect the subpoena.
Incoming.
All right, the show goes on.
Yeah, incoming. Oh no, that's just to let the people know no one's getting away. It's not a matter of at the end of this episode he gets away. No, he's going to be hammered. And just apropos of that previous section with the remdesivir, Dr. Brian Ardis, who's done stellar work in terms of revealing solutions to the problems, including the use of nicotine, etc. He was the one. I think that was a triggering event for him because his father-in-law died at the hands of a doctor at a hospital and was injected with remdesivir, despite the fact that Dr. Ardis had strongly recommended against it and provided the information for it. And that was the triggering event that got Brian going. And he's been like a rhinoceros charging into whatever's in his way. He's done fantastic work. So again, that remdesivir and the intentional killing by medical professionals of people in hospital for financial gain, no one gets away with it, folks. So if you're a doctor or a mister, or I don't give a rat's anymore, if you're involved in it and you did nothing, watch out. Incoming.
Yep. You bet. Yeah, Brian Ardis has done some great work. We worked with him back in the day. He came on our broadcasting network quite a bit, and I had the opportunity to chat with him personally as well from my own health situation. But yeah, he's trailblazed with the venom and the nicotine and other issues. Let's switch gears now to Trump advisor Stephen Miller. He went off on Fauci as well during an appearance on Fox News last week. Let's listen to this clip.
Broken healthcare establishment. President Trump was the one who questioned the origins of COVID. President Trump is the one who questioned the need for requiring every single American to be tested over and over and over again. He's the one who questioned whether we should require children and healthy adults to be subject to restrictions for an illness that primarily targets the elderly and the sick.
Yeah, but Stephen, Fauci was all over the place on television. Yeah,
but the fights,
yes.
remember,
but he
Laura,
went out
it's
there.
too easy to rewrite the history of this period. I was there, Laura. I have to be very clear on this point. President Trump saved America from a Great Depression by fighting against those who wanted to shut down the schools and shut down our way of life. He fought to reopen the government. And if you remember, the Biden campaign in 2020 spent hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing President Trump for fighting to keep America open at every single step. Every day, the news cycle was the so-called healthcare establishment attacking President Trump for questioning the experts. And President Trump, at the same time, moved heaven and earth because there were people who did have pre-existing conditions, they had comorbidities, who did need help. He moved heaven and earth to get our hospitals the equipment and materials they need, which is why we had a vastly lower death rate than all the other developed nations of the world. So I salute President Trump for what he achieved, and I'm glad that America got to see in the hearing today exactly why President Trump fought the healthcare establishment the way.
Any comments on that segment?
Yeah. Stephen Miller, he's a cruise missile, that guy. He is very, very impressive. He also always masters the detail. He knows how to deliver it. And it's like watching a prize fighter deliver a 17-punch combination to the point where his opponent doesn't know what to do. But anyway, what did he do? He blasted Fauci and he boosted Trump. And the blasting of Fauci is key. But now this stage, now what he's giving the audience, what they're receiving is answers to the pushback of the ones suffering Trump derangement syndrome. And they will parrot Stephen Miller's comments, and they're accurate. He did question. He did want to keep the government open. He did want to find ways of getting through this without disrupting the economy of the people. The other side was, let's shut down the whole country, which was of course, their objective. And so now we've got, in this particular episode, now we've got the answers to the never-Trumpers who are going to complain, and the people can turn around and go, well, really, no. Stephen Miller says, because he was there, he said he was there, and this is what Trump did to save the country. So Trump's a good guy, Fauci's a bad guy, and let's move on with the next scene in the film.
You bet. Well, the next scene takes us to RFK Jr. again. Let's run the clip.
You know, there were doctors like Peter McCulloch and Robert Malone and Pierre Corey who were saying from the beginning, they were looking at the data and saying, yeah, this causes myocarditis. It causes blood clots. It causes myocardial pulmonary infarctions. And they were being censored. They were being vilified, marginalized, demonized, delicensed, publicly scolded by the press. The media malpractice is really what I think we should focus on, because anybody who questioned Dr. Fauci was put off on an island. They were pariahs. And the media every day was telling us, trust the experts. Well, he was the expert. And we now know he was lying about everything. He was lying about masks. He was lying about social distancing. He was lying about lockdowns. He was lying about natural immunity. He was lying about the ability of the vaccine to prevent transmission and to prevent infection. He got the vaccine and he immediately got COVID-19, and then he got a pulmonary infarction. He was lying about the origins from day one. Why was he lying? Because he funded those studies at the Wuhan lab, and he funded the studies at the University of North Carolina that developed the techniques for weaponizing COVID-19, and then gave those, Ralph Barrick, his funded scientist at the University of North Carolina, gave those to Xi Jinping, the scientist, the bat lady scientist in the Wuhan lab, and he taught her a technique that Anthony Fauci had paid him to develop called seamless ligation, which is also called no-seam. It's a way of manipulating the virus to make it deadly to human beings and then covering up the evidence of human manipulation. And why would anybody spend NIH money developing that kind of technology? It's bioweapons technology. It has nothing to do with public health. It's the opposite. It's the inverse of anything you would want to do with public health. Well, he took that and he gave it to the Chinese military lab at Wuhan. So these are, and as you mentioned at the beginning of this, we today, NIH, has now issued a policy to make sure these kind of experiments can never happen again, that NIH will never again pay for a dangerous gain-of-function experiment.
And you leave it to Fox News to disrupt and destroy the balance of that incredible attack by Bobby Kennedy with all that noise and music that they were running. I'm sorry, but that just irked me. Bobby, RFK said it. He lied about everything. What do you make of that segment?
Yeah, this is the next step. He all but mentioned the word collaborators. Now, collaborators is a very, it's pregnant with meaning, particularly amongst the older generation. Collaborators after the war, those that collaborated with the fascists, the Nazis, the Italian fascists in Germany, in Italy rather, they were treated at the hands of the people quite brutally. Women were shaved heads, people were strung up in the streets for collaborating with the enemy. And so he did everything except use the word collaborator in relation to the media. So he mentioned Fauci, bad guy, media, collaborators. They're the ones that need to be held to account, and with good cause. And then he slipped back to Fauci and the development of the weaponization, the gain-of-function research, which allowed it to turn into a bioweapon. Now what's been introduced to the narrative is the fact the bioweapons treaty, International Bioweapons Convention. Now we're talking about serious crimes against humanity. The fact that the bioweapon term has been now used and introduced into the lexicon of this particular discussion. Collaborators, bioweapons, we're now at the highest level of criminality you can imagine. And once again, just like the doctors, the media are going to be wrapped up in this. Who were the other people that were hung after the German generals in World War II? The media that supported them. And this is real. This isn't just bloodlust. This is retribution, justifiable retribution, in order to demonstrate to those who follow, don't you do this or you will end up just like them. And that's a good thing for every young journalist out there to know. Now, my parents were both journalists. My older sister was a journalist. And they took that job very, very seriously. This isn't a theoretical concept, reporting the news. It is exceptionally important. It requires an exceptionally moral person to do it. In fact, my sister was invited to work on a show called The Current Affair, Australia's top-rated current affairs program. And within a few weeks, she resigned. Now, this is what every reporter wants. They spend their time in the print media. They go to the shipping news, and then they work on their way up in the print media. And if they're, they're pleasant to look at, are intelligent, can articulate a point, they get invited onto TV. And she was invited onto Current Affairs. She did 2-3 shows, whatever it was. And she came home in tears, and I can remember it. She came home in tears and said, I can't do it. And they asked why. My mother and my father asked why. I said, because all they want is the money shot. They want to see a picture of the victim and somebody crying. They don't care about the facts. And she resigned from one of the premier jobs in the country on a point of morality. And the media are anything but moral. They are amoral and they are immoral. They either don't have a central core or they do, and they don't care. They'll break the rules. They are both. And so this is a big finger in the face of the media. They are all going down, every last one of them. If they haven't already, they soon will. So the collaboration factor by the media, but then the bioweapons convention, International Bioweapons Convention being raised. Now we're serious. This is the serious end of the discussion. This opens up so many avenues for the white hats to travel down now that you're going to have to keep your head on a swivel, because it's going to move very quickly from here on.
Yes, you raised the point of the media. We've got them on. What I see here is their election interference for knowingly reporting false information during Russiagate and election theft, as well as the COVID situation. So the media has been put on alert, as I see it. And President Trump called it out when he came down the escalator in 2015. One of the first narratives that I recall was fake news, enemy of the people. And we see it today with election theft, and we see it in their role in COVID. Let's listen to President Donald Trump. Run the clip.
Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times today.
Yes,
Senator Rand Paul said he's going to hold a vote on holding him in contempt of Congress. Do you think Dr. Fauci should face repercussions for this?
Well, I watched the whole thing today, but more importantly, I was a part of the whole Fauci. I inherited Fauci. He was here from the 1980s, so I had him for a period of time. And I disagreed with him on a lot. I would have had to close down the whole country if I listened to him. I went the Federalist way, which is basically let the governors decide. And generally speaking, the Republican governors did very well. The Democrat governors did not very well. But Fauci wanted to have nobody wearing masks, if you remember, and then everybody had to wear 5 masks, as many masks as you could get. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes. And he wasn't a big factor for me. He was a very big factor for Biden. And if you remember, even though we were sort of prime time in terms of that whole disaster of COVID, far people died, fewer in the Trump administration than in the Biden administration. We ran it well. Operation Warp Speed was talked about as being one of the great success stories anywhere in the world, actually. And we did a good job. But many more people died under Biden than died in the Trump administration from COVID. COVID was a disaster, but Fauci did not help.
Mr. President, do you think that the DOJ should reopen the investigation into the auto pen, specifically pertaining to Fauci?
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing a president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden. And I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful, they say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now, whether or not I sign my things directly, always, almost everything I sign directly. You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon. But I'm not sure that he signed, he probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things, that the person operating the auto pen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the auto pen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
Power of the pardon. What do you say about that, Colonel Bosi?
Yeah, he moved in first with the Federalist approach, which was great. That the statement of trusting the people to take care of themselves. He doesn't want to be the guy that pulls every lever. He's saying, yeah, no, we took the Federalist approach, let the governors do their thing. The Republican governors did well. Democrats not so well. We had fewer deaths under us, which is true. And then he mentions warp speed. And that needed to be mentioned because people are still using that as an excuse to prove that Trump is a bad guy. And what the people with Trump derangement syndrome refuse to accept is that what it did was it forced the companies. And you got to remember, black hats were still running a lot of the facilities here. DJT didn't have control of every lever of power in this operation. So warp speed forced them to put out vials full of saline because they didn't have enough of this stuff to go out. It would go out anyway. So instead of billions dying, millions died. So by warp speed, Trump saved millions and hundreds of millions of lives. Now, this is the brutal mathematics of war. If people are children and they want to see happy, joy news stories where all the bad guys die and all the good guys win and they can share fairy bread and coloured cake at the end of the show, then fucking grow up and go somewhere else. This is a real war with real deaths, and people have spilled real blood and real treasure to do this job. And it ain't perfect. No war is. And I know that all the comments are coming from people who've never put on a uniform. They've never actually taken a risk other than maybe trying a sugar substitute in their latte. That's about as risky as their life gets. But they should really pull their heads in and realize that what's been going on is tough and difficult and complex, and it's been done with exquisite detail. But anyway, that's the warp speed comment. But Federalist approach, fewer deaths. And the last point he mentioned was, sorry, I've now forgotten. What was it, John?
The pardons.
The pardons, yeah. The power of the pardon. Let's bring that back in. Let's keep this front of mind. Let's keep these issues front of mind of the people so they can, the short-term memory is about 5 to 7 issues. And so any good communicator won't push it to 7. Very few people can hold 7. 3 is the minimum that you should use. Always give them 3 things to remember. But you can go 3, 5, 7, depending on the capacity of your audience. So when you're sending messages, it's within that bracket between 3 to 7. 5 is about right. And they're just keeping issues front of mind. Pardon is one of them, because that's going to be a big deal in coming up in the next few months, I guess.
Yes, and Rand Paul, I mean, we're days away from finding out, but a couple of days ago stated on the record that it seems like he may try and pursue holding Fauci in contempt of court for his lack of performance as of recent. There seems to be a few different legal and constitutional angles to the approach here. You've got a pardon, and that's those stacks of issues. You've got the fact that the pardon may not have been legitimate anyway. Then you got those issues. Then you got contempt of court, and so forth and so on. And I think it was Josh Hawley stated, you have no rights based on some of these things. So there seems to be several different legal things, and I realize you're not an attorney, but we probably should have brought on Tom Renz to tag with us here, Attorney Tom. But Riccardo, what's your view of the legal aspects of this? Again, with the disclaimer, you're not an attorney. That ends up leading Fauci to swinging from the rope, which is how we started this program. In your best guess, what's the avenue that takes him there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like that old story. We know what you are, my dear. We're just discussing the price. You know, when the old question, what do you think I am, a prostitute? Well, we know what you are. Well, we know he's guilty. We're just discussing how he's going to get to the noose. Now, the first issue will be this, and it'll continue for a while. This is the pardon issue. That's got to be resolved, and it's already been resolved, but to the satisfaction of the people, and at a time that suits the narrative. Now, after that, there are 3, again, no legal training, but my understanding is this. There are 3 options open to what they can do with Fauci. He can be held in contempt of Congress by refusing to do what he's required to do. That means the Congress has to vote on taking action against him, and it becomes a protracted process. But they can do that, and then it's dealt with in a court of law. It can be, if Congress if they don't want to pursue it that way, he can just be charged in a normal court of law. And again, you are now subject to a protracted legal process. Now, the third one was, I had this yesterday, but I've now forgotten. So there's the contempt of Congress, there's the normal court of law, and then I guess it's just military tribunals after that, which one will go. Either way, either of those 3 ways, after the pardon issue is dealt with, and as I've said before, a good commander doesn't commit to a course of action until he's absolutely no options left open to him, and then he can pick the best one given the circumstances. But there are 3 potential ways ahead from here. Contempt of Congress, a normal legal can be referred to the normal prosecutors in the Department of Justice, or it gets dealt with under a martial law legal hearing.
I sure hope it's the latter. And as you said, much of this, if not all of it, may have already played out. But we'll go ahead and watch the program. I'm going to shift gears a little bit as we wind the program down. The U.S. Constitution states that somebody cannot run for a 3rd term. And we discussed this to our audience on the Global Defense War panel. You'll want to tune into that. But it doesn't say that Trump can't be a 3rd term president. You have the 45-47, so there's that discussion. He already had 3 terms, but 1 having to serve in a unique capacity at Mar-a-Lago. And then you have Trump 2028 cap. So let's run this clip and sort of unpack this a little bit.
I think Trump will get a 3rd term. Isn't that constitutionally illegal?
Trump getting a 3rd term is not illegal. So let me explain the loophole. What Trump could do is this, okay? There are 2 possibilities. The first possibility is, in 2028, he has his son, Don Jr., run as the president, and he runs as the vice president. And then when Don Jr. wins, if he wins, then Don Jr. could abdicate and Trump would be the president. And in the Constitution, if you read the Constitution very carefully, it doesn't actually prohibit people from doing that. It's not been done in the past. And like no sane person with any morality would do this. But that doesn't stop Trump from doing this, okay? That's one possibility. Another possibility is that by 2028, America is at war with everyone. There's a national draft. The president now has emergency war powers. And so he can actually suspend the Constitution and delay the election, which is what Zelensky did in Ukraine. So these are two different possibilities. But I think that given Trump's track record, given his personality, I think he very much wants a third term. And I think that he will do everything possible to get a third term.
Interesting dialogue. I think a bit off the mark. Certainly the Don Jr. approach is, in my humble opinion, certainly not going to happen. That's not going to be the president's decision, in my opinion. What are your views about this? 45-47, Trump 2028 hat, that signal. What do you make of all this? And the fact that we're under continuity of government, martial law on global martial law on steroids, basically. Let's top that gentleman's talking points, if you will.
Okay, first up, legitimacy is key here. I agree with you. The Don Jr. president, vice president, it stinks. It's a ploy done by someone who's weak. Weak individuals need tricks. Strong individuals don't. Trump is strong. If nothing, he's strong. He's heroic in his strength. And so it doesn't appeal. The second justification being that Zelensky did it. Again, not what you want. Hey, Zelensky did it, so I'll do it. So you're putting yourself on Zelensky's. Forget it. It's never going to happen. Legitimacy is key here. It's got to be the people love Trump and they want him in. So how's he going to do? I agree with the gentleman in the sense that Trump will do everything legitimately. That legitimacy is key to any further acknowledgement by the people that he is the president. Now, I think it's the 22nd Amendment that allegedly was slipped in to say that you can't run for another term. It's unconstitutional. So that gets punted and the door is open. And all of a sudden people go, well, thank goodness for that. Well, if we wanted Trump, he's allowed to be there. The 22nd Amendment was rubbish. Let's get rid of that. It's got rid of. And they're now relaxed because they have him back because there is no obvious successor because there just isn't. There will be in time, but there isn't at the moment. And that's by design. 22nd Amendment is gone. We've got Trump back and it's all legitimate. Let's get on with the job and keep cleaning up this mess.
Thank you. And again, to our viewers, Riccardo and Derek Johnson and Colonel Chuck Sellers broke that down as well on the Global Defense War panel, as well as many other issues. Before we conclude this broadcast, and I appreciate you weighing in on Fauci, it's a pretty big deal, whether it's 2.0 Fauci or it's already happened and it's for the target audience. I've been waiting for this moment, like many of us, for 6 years. So we're going to follow this until the ultimate outcome for Anthony Fauci and all the others that will be implicated along the way. Let's switch gears completely. What's going on in Spain and Italy today? Out of nowhere, we have these headlines that seem rather interesting. Yeah, Italy orders full closure of the country's sea and air borders with Spain due to the foreign invasion. What's happening in Spain and Italy? Are we witnessing another orchestrated show of sorts? What's going on?
Sure, this is good, but I'm going to have to go back. I have to set the context for you. Do you remember a few days ago, a little while ago, that King Mohammed VI of Morocco renamed a major highway, which was built, the $1 billion highway, which is built to assist with access to the Atlantic for cross-Atlantic trade. So rather than going through the Med, Morocco was opening itself up to be becoming an export center for Africa. It's what people probably don't know about Morocco. It's fabulously wealthy, fabulously successful. They produce tons of cars. the Renaults, and they produce a large percentage of vehicles. They have a very sophisticated motor vehicle assembly capability. They control 70% of the world's phosphates, the fertilizers. So this country is a constitutional republic. King Mohammed's fabulously wealthy. They have elections, and he's running the show. Now, so why am I talking about Morocco? DJT's name was attached to this magnificent road that was built. It was started years ago, but it was built, and they called it now the Donald J. Trump Freeway or Expressway, or whatever. And that news hit the streets, and people are going, why? What's Morocco? Where is Morocco? Where's this road? I have no clue. So people would have gone to the map of North Africa and gone, oh, there's Morocco. What's to the south? Western Sahara. What's that? Oh, that's just a bit of contested land. Why did King Mohammed VI call it the Donald Trump Road? Because Donald Trump acknowledged Morocco's claim to the sovereignty over Western Sahara. 2 thumbs up. Who was making the claim? Mauritania to the east. Mauritania hasn't been pushing this claim for some years now, but hey, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And so now DJT says to King Mohammed VI, I acknowledge your claim to Western Sahara. Mohammed says, thanks, mate, no problem. I'll name a road over after you, and we'll make an announcement. And so it happens. Now, why is that important? Well, for Africa, if you look at, you've got the top of Africa, the deserts, then you've got this transitional stretch of land just south, and it covers just south of Morocco and east. It's called the Sahel, which means the coast, because this is a transitional piece of land. Then you got the savannah to the south. And so what Mohammed did is he promised the Sahel region access to his export routes so they can now get involved in cross-Atlantic trade. Now, this helps Africa grow in a very real practical sense. This isn't just, it's just not smoke and mirrors. This is a very real advance for Morocco and therefore for Africa. So they don't have to go through the Med anymore. So now we've got the geography right. So anybody that watched that announcement about the road and realized there's something more to it, you'd have come away with all that information. You've gone, wow, this is really interesting. I didn't know Morocco was so rich. I didn't know they control the phosphates of the planet. I didn't know that now this is going to open up African cross-Atlantic trade between Africa and the US direct without having to go through the Mediterranean ports. So now people know where Morocco is. Then all of a sudden we hear about the Moroccans crossing the border into Spain. Now, if you look at the map, there's North Africa, as you're looking at the map here, right? You're looking at the map, and here's Morocco, and there's the Straits of Gibraltar, and then there's the beginning of the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain. So how can they cross a border into Spain? They can't. There is no land border with Spain, except there is. And on the tip, the very northern tip of Morocco, there's a small patch of land. It's called Ceuta. Ceuta. It's spelt, let me get this right, C-E-U-T-A. C-E-U-T-A, but it's pronounced Ceuta in Spanish. And that's actually a Spanish enclave on African mainland, on what should be Morocco by any other description. Not dissimilar to the Rock of Gibraltar, which is in the Straits of Gibraltar, right there. It should be part of Spain, but it's actually controlled by the British, and the British won't hand it over because strategically it's invaluable. And so this is a little Spanish enclave on mainland Africa. That's where the Moroccans have crawled over the border. Donald Trump has criticized that. He's called them all sorts of offensive names. Having been best mates with Mohammed VI, he's now saying the Moroccans are dirtbags and they're destroying Spain. So now we've got all these Moroccans jumping the border, going into Ceuta, causing the Spanish left-wing government all sorts of concerns because they're now allowing all of this to happen and they're doing nothing about it. And the Spanish in Ceuta are in real trouble. So that then triggers Meloni, who's also the Prime Minister of Italy, who's also under control, to say, well, we better close the borders with Spain because Spain's now out of control. And so they're now attracting attention, everybody's eyes. The road story was to get everybody focused on Morocco. Morocco is now focusing the people on Spain, and Spain is now focusing getting the attention of the Italians, and they're now raising an issue in the southern part of Europe about the illegal immigrants and what's going to happen next. So now they've got the entire world looking at it. with a little more interest. Now, is there a story in and of itself in relation to this? Absolutely. Is it a distraction from, say, well, I don't know, the Straits of Hormuz? Is it a distraction, I don't know, from anywhere else on the planet where things are going on that they don't want us to look at just now? So let's look at the Straits of Gibraltar. Let's look at Ceuta while other things are happening down here, and then that'll pop up. And so the story keeps rolling. So as I said, keep your head on a swivel, folks. It's very interesting as the story reveals itself. Now, having said all of that, let me just understand that we take this very seriously. Real people are dying. This is not a happy time. I get that. I really do. There's real suffering out there on a real level, and they don't care about the road in Morocco. They don't care about Ceuta. They don't care about Spain and Italy because they're looking at the 6 inches in front of their face, and I've got to pay rent. I'm about to be kicked out. I've got a family with 5 children, and a husband and horses, and we've got nowhere to go. So I understand there are real problems. So this isn't a moment for sort of celebration in that sense, but we must understand what's going on. And there is a movie being played out to us. If we understand the movie, it'll give us a little bit more pause and calm to understand that what I'm dealing with here will come to pass, but it will go. Every night finishes with a dawn. It's always the same. And quite literally, for those of us who have been there of a morning waiting for the bad guys to come and get us, just before the sun rises, and this is quite literal, it is a weather event, just before the sun rises, the sky literally gets darker. Whatever ambient light there was overnight, it just darkens. It literally gets darkest before the dawn, and the temperature will drop a couple of degrees. So you'll sit there, you'll see the sun starting to come up, well, the hint of a sun coming up, and you'll start shivering. Why? Because it gets colder and darker just before the sun comes up. For all of those of you who are suffering, and you are, I get it, we're all going through it to differing degrees. It is coming to an end. I know you've been hearing this for years. I get it. It has been coming to an end, but it has to come to an end at the right time. And so we are very close, very, very, very close.
Thank you, sir. We are very close, and this is going to be an incredible year ahead. And put on your seatbelts, pray, plan, and prepare, and don't lose the faith. Stay together. And to that point, tune into Fireside Chats with JMC, just published yesterday, a premiere episode. I break down a lot of things in there, including the discussions concerning Guardian Daniel R. And but Riccardo, sir, thank you very much for breaking this down. The majority of the show we spent on the Fauci hearings, if you will, and this has just begun, and all roads lead to justice. And we're going to witness it. We're going to see it, and there will be a cause of celebration there, at least. Thank you very much. Let's put up a copy of Riccardo's book. A lot of our audience, and I've gotten comms from the audience, have picked up your book already. But for those that haven't and those newly coming aboard, The 5 Pillars of Real Leadership, Greatness Awaits You, Riccardo Bosi, in its 5th printing. You can pick up a copy at wilkinsonpublishing.com.au and also at amazon.com. I want to thank you again, retired Lieutenant Colonel Riccardo Bosi of Australia One Party in Australia. I also want to say hello to all our Australian friends out there. Thanks to your presence and your leadership and you giving of your time to me and my network for our 2nd year now on this program and the Global Defense War panel. We have a growing audience in Australia, and we love you, Australians, and we thank you. And you've got a man sitting here on the screen who can turn things around there with your help. So God bless you, Riccardo Bosi. Thank you, sir. I'll be right back after a brief announcement about the Global Defense War broadcast.
Join JMC Broadcasting's monthly Global Defense War military panel. JMC hosts an esteemed panel of military experts, including Riccardo Bosi, Tom Lennox, Chuck Sellers, Michael Jaco, Derek Johnson, Brad Wozny, and other military guests. Join us each month, where this panel of esteemed guests analyze the current events across a broad spectrum of topics, addressing the questions and concerns that you have. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Global Defense War Military Panel broadcast, right here on jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right. Again, I want to thank Riccardo Bosi for his keen insights and brilliant analysis, helping us all to make sense of the madness, make sense of the times that we're in. Ultimate victory, of course, is ours. And we're almost at the finish line of in my opinion, the finale, if you will, on this phase of the operation, which has been ongoing for quite some time. But now we're moving into rapid disclosure. Also, I encourage you to listen to my war reports, Guardian Daily R. I read the war reports most every day. They're published. They're 5 to 15 minutes long. That'll keep you informed. I'll make an announcement right now just to scratch the surface on it. August 31st will be the last time we'll do Bosi Briefs twice a month. Right now it's twice a month. Beginning September, Bosi Briefs will be once a month, but you're not losing Riccardo Bosi and I on screen, particularly Riccardo, because we're also going to be launching in September the Board of Truth. And our board trustees, of which Riccardo will be one, will be commenting on the war reports. I've got a panel of military, intelligence, and economic experts as board trustees on a new broadcast launching in September, monthly, Board of Truth. And there, it's one mission. We will put up on the digital screen a couple of the select war reports of that month that I consider to be critical. I will read them sectionally and have the Board of Trustees break it down for us. So stay tuned to joining me and Riccardo and others once a month on the Board of Truth. And the Bosi Briefs, very popular, will still be broadcast just once a month, and we'll pick up Riccardo's analysis on the war reports at the Board of Truth. Again, thank you all very much for following, liking, and sharing our work at JMC Broadcasting. Sign up for free, jmcbroadcasting.com, or consider our premium portal, which includes the Patriot Q&A hour each and every month. We've had Derek Johnson, we've had Mike King, Will Barney, Wano Savin, just had Sheila home. What a breath of fresh air Sheila was. And we have Patriot Street Fighter Scott McKay joining us next month. So take a look at our platform, jmcbroadcasting.com, and we'll just wrap it up here. Thanking Riccardo once again. And thank you. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.